The narrative since WrestleMania has been the wrestling world blows up each and every week. Andy, I think this was the biggest blow up that we have seen yet. What an incredible week last week was in the WWE. If we listed all of these things off that happened just in last week, you would expect that to be over a year.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
But it all happened in 1 week.
In 1 week, the entire landscape of WWE completely shifted. And we've been anticipating some of this stuff. Some of it was a genuine shock. We've been anticipating some of it, but it all is just showing how incredible WWE is right now. Like, they're just, since I started watching, it's not been this good.
The only thing that they can say right now is it's on fire, and it's literally burning down.
It is.
And if you've missed what we're talking about, welcome to Squared Circle Radio. That's Andy York. I'm Chris Belcher. We're going to talk about Seth Rollins coming back. We're going to talk about Uncle Howdy and the Wyatt Sick6. We're going to talk about Drew McIntyre, Liv Morgan, Joe Hendry, Jacob Fatu, Forbidden Door, just Chad Gable, all of the things. Like, we have to hit all of them. We appreciate you guys being tuned in to us. Thank you for making us your stop for your wrestling content this week. If this is your first time, like the video on the YouTube channel, subscribe to the channel. We would appreciate it very, very, very much. We are getting close to 100 subscribers on our YouTube channel. That might not sound like a whole lot to some people, but it's an accomplishment to us. So let's get that number up. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. It doesn't cost you anything. Helps us a ton. Andy, let's not waste any more time, man. 6/17/24 was the clear date that we got in a couple of QR codes back, and all signs pointed to Corpus Christi, Texas, last Monday night on Raw. The Wyatt Sick6 make their re-debut, debut in these form, but re-debut for all of these characters. Uncle Howdy's crew showing up, and they promised a massacre. Boy, did they give us one.
I, in a million years, did not expect a debut like this for them.
It was wild.
Like, I didn't know what to expect, but this wasn't like, if you made me write out like the top 100 possibilities, this would have never appeared on any of them. I mean, the whole show, and I'm going to throw my wife a little bit under the bus here tonight.
That's okay. We know that she gets a little queasy with blood and some weird things. It's okay.
But like the whole time, she's not into the Uncle Howdy stuff. She's not into the creep. She finds it interesting, but she's not going to watch the videos and stuff. She just makes me tell her about them later. Sure. But all along, like the whole episode, she was like, I thought a massacre was coming. Like, no, nothing has happened the entire show except more QR codes popping up or like more glitches in the system, whatever. The last 5 minutes of Raw, I was completely enthralled. Yeah. Completely enthralled. And it was a legit massacre backstage.
Jim Cornette was dogging it on his show this week, but he said, if you're going to make a horror movie, just go make a horror movie. Well, guess what? They made a horror movie at the end of Monday Night Raw last
Jim
week.
Cornette's just going to do whatever he wants, and he's an idiot anyway.
Sure he is.
But I get, like, it felt like straight out of a horror movie.
It was insane.
And that's what these characters should feel like. But what I love, and I think in a way makes them even more creepy and eerie, is how grounded in reality they are. Yep. Like, they're not supernaturally popping up. They're not, like doing all this stuff. They are creepy because it's like, I could see people doing this. Like, this is wild, the stuff that they're doing. Yeah. Did not expect the blood splatter on the wall behind the dude's head. That was wild. Threw me for a loop. Did not expect Chad Gable to be bleeding like he got shot in the head or whatever it was. Yeah. Just a wild debut, re-debut, whatever you want to call it. And it does what all of these Bray Wyatt type characters do. Yes. The debut is always so captivating. It's about what happens next.
We're going to get to what happens next from what happened on Monday Night Raw tonight. Yeah. Oh, my gosh. But these characters, in case that you missed it last week, of course, we have Taylor Rotunda a.k.a. Bo Dallas, playing the part of Uncle Howdy. You have Nikki Cross playing the part of Sister Abigail. Dexter Loomis.
She's playing Abby the Witch.
Abby the Witch, not Sister Abigail. Yeah. Okay, thank you for clarifying. Because these are all based on the Funhouse
characters. Yeah.
So Mercy the Buzzard, played by Dexter Loomis. Ramblin' Rabbit, played by Eric Rowan.
Yeah.
And then we have Huskus the Pig, played by Joe Gacy.
Yeah.
So all of these are some weird, demented horror version of these puppets. It's not exactly what we saw in the Funhouse.
Yeah, or when Bray Wyatt returned.
Exactly.
Like those characters kind of popped up. I will say this. The first thing I noticed about Uncle Howdy was the new mask.
Yes.
Like it wasn't the whole face thing. It was the hat. It looks so... I don't know if it's just the half mask or if it's the hair that goes along with it. But he looks completely... He looks more like terrifying now.
See, I had this problem when Bray was still around and when Uncle Howdy started showing up in the flesh, because there was some questions for a little while about who was Uncle Howdy. And then all of a sudden the mask changed and it was clearly Bo Dallas.
Yeah.
But the first couple of times that he showed up, it was like his real face was messed up or whatever. I find that more creepy than what we're actually getting. And I'm not saying I don't like what we're getting. I just found that more like, creepy, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, especially with what happened tonight, I think that mask that he's wearing now makes a lot more sense than the leather face, skin face thing that he was wearing.
Yes, agreed.
But I was like, all of the masks were intense. Nikki Cross's was horrifying.
Hers is probably my favorite, just because of how wild it is.
I think Eric Rowan's
is cool.
Is a cool, especially the back has the skull from the Bludgeon Brothers on it, and he's got the mallet and everything else. The Vulture mask is cool. The pig mask, like all of the masks are just amazing.
Yep.
And that final shot of Raw, I mean, is just amazing. It's such a high spot to start in that I had no idea what to expect this week.
Oh, for sure.
And then when we got what we got, it was like, I was not expecting this, but I love this too. So like, what is happening with these characters?
Let's finish up last week, and then we'll get into what we saw tonight on Monday Night Raw. You mentioned Chad Gable. A lot of people speculated that there were other superstars that got attacked last week. Seemingly, that's been put to bed because Gunther showed up this week.
Braun Strowman.
Triple H was on Pat McAfee today. Braun Strowman showed up. We haven't seen Carmelo Hayes, I think, was on SmackDown.
Carmelo Hayes just straight up said it wasn't me. I'm not there.
Yeah. So all of that seemingly has been extra talent.
Yeah.
And the only one that we focused on for good reason was Chad Gable. And you mentioned maybe he died, maybe he didn't, whatever. That jokes to be had, whatever, but Chad Gable shows up tonight with security on Monday Night Raw. I'm interested in, a lot of people are talking about how Chad Gable has been emphasizing family over the last couple of weeks. And then some people pointed out online that one of the QR codes said, you stop saying thank you, which is really interesting.
Yeah.
My intrigue with Chad Gable is not... I wonder first why they picked him. Not for storyline purposes, just why Chad Gable. How big of a part did this play in him re-signing?
Yeah.
What if he didn't re-sign? Would this have either killed him off, literally, or would it have been somebody else? What? I know that's loaded, but what do you think?
I think if he didn't re-sign, I mean, what a way to have your character written off TV than that way. I know Ricochet got written off TV in a really cool way.
Right.
Not like that. That would have been wild. I think... I don't know if they're even going to go into a feud with Chad Gable at this point. Like, with what happened tonight, with what we saw. I know Nikki came out and all that stuff, but, like, they didn't target him. They didn't go after him. They didn't even really mention him and the other stuff. So I don't know if they're going to go after him. I don't know what the case is. I don't know who else, though, right now you could put him in a feud with on Raw. Because, like, Braun Breaker's doing fantastic stuff with the Intercontinental Championship. You don't want to do that. Maybe Strowman, but that's too on the nose kind of right now. I think you need a good introduction feud before you jump into that. I thought it would have been kind of cool if it was Adam Pearce. Like they just went after Adam Pearce.
Which we're still holding out hope for.
Yeah. But I don't know who else they would have gone after if it wasn't Chad Gable. I think Chad Gable makes the most sense. I'm trying to run my head through who else is on Raw, because like there's a lot of people you could do. Like Chad Gable turned on the Alpha Academy. Carmelo Hayes turned on Trick Williams. Yep. Somebody else just turned recently. Ludwig Kaiser turned on Giovanni Vinci. So like there are people you could go after. Yep. I feel like Chad Gable is the safest bet right now.
Right. And see, I think based on tonight, they could still do something with him, because I think what we have to remember and what this Wyatt Sick6 storyline is proving to us, and Sam Roberts says this all the time, everything counts.
Yep.
Nothing is done flippantly.
Yep.
And for them to approach Chad Gable tonight, yes, Nikki Cross took the videotape over to Michael Cole, which we'll talk about, but I feel like there's still something with Gable. We know that the Alpha split up. He's trying to get them back, all those kind of things. I feel like there's something with Gable. Don't know what it is yet. Also don't know what it is with Pat McAfee yet.
He just didn't show up.
Pat was not on Raw tonight.
He's not on Twitter. He hadn't been tweeting anything out all night.
They've been haunting his actual show on ESPN, which is wild.
Yeah.
They've done that a couple of times. He wasn't on commentary tonight. So, I mean, I'm sure he's going to show up for a show tomorrow, but what is the deal with McAfee?
Especially because it was in Indy. So like I don't know where else he would have been. I feel like if it was something Wyatt Sick6 related, they would have had to have shown something on TV tonight. So maybe he just had prior obligations, or I don't know, trying to work out something with College Game Day to get him back on TV or whatever the case is. But I honestly don't know why he wasn't on the show or what's going on with them. But I'm sure the people who aren't wrestling fans watching a show on ESPN were highly confused by the stuff that was happening to him over the week.
Like You Lied popped up and all this other. It's like, wait a minute, what?
Yeah.
Like, is he talking about Caitlin Clark? Is he talking, what is he doing here, Just saying. You're right. They are confused. Let's get to what happened tonight, because, again, Nikki Cross delivered the videotape to Michael Cole. And we were sitting here watching it, and we were like, okay, it's probably a hostage thing.
Yeah, with Pat McAfee. Yeah.
That makes sense. No. What we got was a therapy session between Uncle Howdy and Taylor Rotunda, a.k.a. Bo Dallas, with no mask. No nothing. And Uncle Howdy starts asking the questions that the therapist asked in the 55-minute Twitch takeover. And then he asks about Bray dying.
Oh, my gosh.
And we both looked at each other when we were watching. It was like, what is happening right now?
Oh, my gosh.
You, as a Bray Wyatt guy, like, what are your thoughts as you're watching this and trying to figure out where this story is going to go next?
I love it for many reasons. One, I think and it's kind of somewhat of a dark place to take this, but if the roles were reversed, Bray would be doing the exact same thing.
Yes, he would.
And I think if you're going to introduce, because again, it could be a split personality character, it could be, I honestly I have no idea what it is right now.
Yep.
But you have to answer these questions. Like sure you have to answer the questions of why. What are your motives? Why are you doing this? And the motive that we got tonight from Bo Dallas was he is continuing Bray Wyatt's legacy. Yeah, he's going to do what his brother did, and I love that. Like I think that's a great direction for this to start, especially if you're calling him the Wyatt Six. Yep. This is the direction you have to go.
We have to know why it's called. And the average fan that is coming in and is introduced to this has to know why it's called Wyatt.
Right.
We got to know.
Right. And so I think that's a great direction. Plus, they pull out at one point and they're absolutely in the fun house.
Yep.
Which is just a wild thing. I don't know. Like I love that they've done this. I love the direction they're going for. I wasn't expecting it to go as deep as it did, because he even straight up he asked how you felt when Bray died, and then he said, "How do you feel exploiting your brother's legacy?"
Yeah,
and it's like that. Like, these are questions that I'm sure fans have. Some fans have. Some people are asking. But for the character, you have to ask these questions.
Yep.
And it's better to just do it now and do it the way they did, because you can see the motive behind why he's doing what he's doing is because he's hurting.
Yep.
And he's going to hurt people who are not treating their family right.
Yep.
Point in case, Chad Gable.
Yep.
And so I love it. They're not baby faces. They're not heels. They're doing what they feel is right.
Yep.
And that's scary in some ways, because it's like the kind of like the Homelander or the Punisher from Marvel, like superhero. They're not bad guys. They're going to get justice, but they're not like Batman, who's like not going to kill anybody. They're going to go take people's heads off to get the justice they want.
Right.
That's what the Wyatt Six is going to be, and I think that is a fantastic direction for them to go in.
I do too. It was really interesting, you talking about Bray and continuing his legacy or whatever. And watching that video, my takeaway from that video was that, I don't know if we're going to call him Bo Dallas or Taylor Rotunda or whatever. Doesn't matter. That dude, when I closed my eyes for a minute watching that video, all I heard was Bray Wyatt. Well, all I heard was Bray.
And this is the question I was going to ask you, because one of the trepidations you had was about Bo Dallas doing this.
Yes.
After the last 2 weeks, how are you feeling about him taking over this role? I mean, I know we haven't seen a lot.
Right.
And there's another question I'll ask you after this, because I've seen it all over the internet, and I think it's a question we have to ask.
Sure.
But what do you think he can, I don't want to say fulfill the role of Bray Wyatt, because that's sort of an impossible task to do. But how do you think he can do with a character like this?
I think last week was a home run.
Yeah.
They had very little room for error in doing that the way they did it.
Yeah.
And if one thing screws up,
because nothing was pre-recorded, to look like.
No. I do have a little bit of beef with how it happened, but it's not enough to dive into.
Yeah.
It's fine, whatever. But last week was great. They nailed it. So much like, I just feel like they couldn't have missed last week. If I can give a sports reference real quick, a lot of what is being talked about with the new college football video game. I know that's a weird place to go, but just bear with me for a second. Yeah. A lot of the talk about the new college football game is that they can't miss no matter what they put out.
Yeah.
Because we haven't had a game in like 12 years.
Right.
They can't miss.
As long as it's not a Madden reskin, we're good.
No matter what they put out, people are going to be happy about it.
Yeah.
It's the follow-up that we're concerned about. How can they follow up? Same thing with this.
Yeah.
They were going to knock the debut out of the park. We knew that.
Yeah.
What's coming next? This video tonight, again, I closed my eyes and I heard and I saw Bray Wyatt.
Yeah.
When I closed my eyes.
Yep.
That was wild to me. So, do I think he can fulfill Bray's legacy? No. Do I think he can continue it on a trajectory that Bray would be happy with? You better believe it.
Yeah. And I think it is going to set him up with his own legacy at the same time. And which I think is fantastic.
Because it takes most characters a long time, or most people in wrestling, a long time to find their spot anyway.
It does. And, Bo and Bray kind of have a very parallel path. Bray got to do what he wanted to do with the Bray Wyatt character and not be Huskus or not be some of the other things that he was kind of positioned to be when in NXT and everything. He got to go do the Bray thing.
Yep.
Bo Dallas was stuck being Bo Dallas. And for all the crap that character got, he was funny in that role.
He was.
The Bo Leave stuff was hilarious. He killed it. So now he's getting the chance to be him for the first time, it feels like. And I feel like, in-ring wise stuff, we'll talk about here in a minute, but character-wise, he's got the same gifts that Bray had, I feel like. And when he talks, especially when he cuts a promo like this tonight, people are going to listen. And that's what Bray's thing was. Like, when Bray spoke, a majority of the crowd was going to be listening.
Sure.
Like captivated by what he was saying.
Yep.
The question always is with these kind of characters, take the Undertaker out, because I think the Undertaker is the only one, because I'll even throw Kane into this a little bit.
Okay. When
the bell rings, what do we get? And that's the question that I think a lot of people are asking is, you shouldn't see Ramblin' Rabbit on a random Raw having a match.
Right.
So what do we do in ring-wise with the Wyatt Six?
I don't know. I don't think we speculated about this a couple of weeks ago. I don't think Bo Dallas should wrestle a match ever. I think on a special circumstance, maybe, but I think with this new Triple H led regime, we're not going to see just some random Ramblin' Rabbit match.
Yeah.
On Raw. We're not going to see some Abby the Witch match on Raw just for the sake of having it.
Right.
I feel like this is going to be so protected, especially with Netflix right around the corner.
Yes.
This is going to be so protected.
Yeah, because once they're on Netflix, the reins
All
are
bets
off.
are off.
The reins are off with this. I will say this. I don't think, and I'm speculating off of what we saw tonight.
Yes.
I don't think Uncle Howdy should wrestle except very rarely.
Absolutely.
I think Bo Dallas, Taylor Wyatt, whatever they're going to call him, I think him by himself could wrestle. I think this whole group is going to be what The Fiend originally should have been.
Okay.
Before, Vince got his hands on it and completely choked the life out of it.
Sure.
I think this whole group is going to be very similar to that, where possibly when they're out of their masks, they're different people. Or not necessarily different people, but it's like Bray Wyatt out of The Fiend was the Mr. Rogers TV host, whatever.
Yep.
We saw him wrestle a couple of times and it was what it was. But when The Fiend showed up, it was all bets were off. Somebody's going to die, that type of thing. I feel like you could do that with Bo, have him be this ruthless guy, but when push comes to shove, sometimes Uncle Howdy has to come out. And when Uncle Howdy comes out, all bets are off at that point. But I don't think we don't need that all the time. I don't want to see, if we're going this route with these characters, which I did not expect them to go, to be completely honest with you, I don't need to see Uncle Howdy every week. I don't want to see Uncle Howdy every week. Bo Dallas, I want to see Bo Dallas. I want to hear him talk. I don't want to see Uncle Howdy until we have to see Uncle Howdy sometimes.
I got you. You said before we started recording that you think it would be cool if we did this sit-down interview type thing with all of these characters. Every week.
And they're interviewed by their alter ego.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that would be quite interesting.
There's also the thing we didn't talk about, Chad Gable walking into the arena. And like you said, nothing is done by happenstance or coincidence. When he was walking by the WWE truck, he passed R-Truth. I don't think R-Truth has anything to do with the Y6, although an interaction between R-Truth and Uncle Howdy would be hilarious.
It would be.
But he kept walking, and there was Alexa Bliss in her Lily the Doll attire thing, standing right behind him on the truck. So who knows?
We saw the truck thing play out at WrestleMania. With Rock and with Cena and Cody and all that kind of stuff. I'll be interested to see what they do with it. Here's the thing, is like I was sitting and I was watching with such anticipation this weekend. I know we're going long on this Wyatt Sick stuff, but this stuff has been brewing for so long. There's so many directions it can go. We have so much more to get to on this episode. We appreciate you guys hanging with us. But I'm watching this episode of Raw tonight with such anticipation of what's going to happen. And part of me, like you said, you don't want to see Uncle Howdy every week. I don't want to see too much. I want to be looking over my shoulder at every point. Where are they showing? I mean, we were watching the Chad Gable thing, and you saw me. I was peering around trying to figure out what's in the background, blah, whatever. I want to have all these questions look over my shoulder, but at the same time, I want 3 hours of this
Yeah.
to figure out what this is and what's going to happen.
And that's why I think the debut works so well, is because I think because we even talked about this, they're going to kick off the show with it.
Yep.
Like something's going to happen at Clash at the Castle to where they're going to kick off Raw with the Wyatt Six or Uncle Howdy, whatever they were going to call it.
Yep.
We got the glitch in the intro and all that stuff. Nothing.
Yep.
Like nothing. There was people were trying to point out up in the rafters the silhouette of Uncle Howdy. Don't know if it was him or not. You couldn't really tell.
Right.
All this other stuff, the glitch over Drew McIntyre. When Drew came out for his promo, we were all like, this is it. He's going after Drew McIntyre, a big name. Nothing.
Yep.
And then the end happened.
Yep.
It was 3 hours of that anticipation. And last week was one of the best Raws I remember watching in a long time.
Yep. We're going to get to a bunch of other stuff
and
that
I
happened.
feel like part of that was the entire anticipation of when is this guy going to show up.
Yep.
Tonight was kind of the same way of like the triple threat. Something's got to happen in the triple threat. Well, something did kind of happen, but no answers. And we're like, okay. And then we get the DVD and we're like, well, what's going to happen with that? And then they didn't play it right away. Right. It took like 3 or 4 commercial breaks and then they played it. And now we're like, well, now I got to come back next week to see what. So like it's doing what the Bray stuff did very well in the beginning when he returned.
Yeah.
Answering some, but adding more questions.
Yep.
The problem that we ran into was we did that for way too long without answering a lot of questions. And then we got to the Rumble, and then all the other stuff happened that was out of everybody's control with him getting sick and all of that. This time, yes, let's stretch it out, but let's not stretch it out way too far.
We answered some big questions tonight.
We did. We answered a lot of questions tonight, but we also were like, what does this even mean, though? Like, we answered some, but we still don't know the bigger picture,
right?
Which I love.
Do you feel like, though, with the comparison to the Bray stuff, do you feel like, because I feel like we're already moving at a quicker pace.
Yeah.
With this.
Yeah, and going back to the Bray stuff, like that first promo that Bray cut when he came back, just being him for the first time was incredible.
Yep.
You got the Uncle Howdy tease at the end of that, which was like, oh, what's this? But yeah, I feel like we kind of got the same thing. Like that was the first time we saw Bo Dallas as Bo Dallas. Mm-hmm. Like, and it wasn't in front of a crowd. It wasn't in front of that. But it was just an interesting way to do that. That I feel like we are moving at a little bit of a quicker pace. Mm-hmm. Depends on what happens next week.
Right.
Next week could either keep that pace going, or we could just like really, really quickly, depending on what happens.
Well, we hope you tune in to our show next week. You can do that on our YouTube channel if that's where you're watching. Hit that like button. If you're listening on whatever podcast platform that you want, just make sure you're following the show. We would appreciate it. We bring you this show each and every Tuesday. Just make sure that you are checking us out. Like I said, especially on our YouTube channel, so many great videos there. We've got all our episodes organized into playlists and all the kinds of things. We got shorts to check out. We got all the things. So just make sure you're subscribed to the YouTube channel. Hit that notifications bell. That way you know each time we upload a new episode. All right. We spent a whole lot of time on the Wyatts. Like you said, last week was one of the best episodes of Raw in a long time. We got a whole lot of stuff to hit, including the surprise return to kick off the show, not with the Wyatt Six. Seth freaking Rollins showing up way earlier than I guess any of us expected. Showing up, cutting a promo, and then Damian Priest comes out, and lo and behold, Seth Rollins is getting a shot at the World Heavyweight Championship next week at Money in the Bank.
And I love the way they did it. It wasn't like Seth came out and demanded a rematch, because he was like, I'll go through Money in the Bank. Like, I've already won it once. I'll win it
before,
again. Yeah. But I love that. I love that aspect of it. And then Damian Priest coming out and being like, if I want to prove I'm a champion, I have to beat you because you made this what it is.
Yep.
And so I love that entire aspect of it. I genuinely popped out of my seat when his music hit, because I didn't even know a timetable when he was returning.
Nobody did.
Like, I didn't know. I thought it would be post SummerSlam, possibly at SummerSlam, whatever the case is. Did not expect him to show up here, but Raw was missing him.
Yes, it was.
A lot. And I feel like this past week on both Raw and SmackDown, both shows, they were doing fine, but they were kind of mellowing out, both shows got a massive shot in the arm, and they brought a lot of life to both these shows again. And part of that is because of Seth Rollins.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, he's a star for a reason.
Yeah.
He's a top guy for a reason. He shows up unexpected.
Place went nuts.
Place went insane. He's got a neutron that doesn't say freaking in the middle, so just something to keep in mind. We wondered, you kind of speculate, he's been this sort of character for a long time. When he came back, it seems like he's going to be the same kind of guy. He's still dressing all funky. Is he going to be a heel? Is he going to be a babyface? What's he going to do?
Yeah.
Don't know. Looks like we're still a lot of the same. We'll see what the Money in the Bank result, see how that comes up.
Yeah.
And then see what happens at SummerSlam. I think SummerSlam will be like a big pivot point for Seth as to which way he's going to go, with his character. But as we saw on Raw tonight, stipulation was made for Money in the Bank. If Seth Rollins wins, Damian Priest has to walk a mile in Seth Rollins' shoes, meaning he's got to leave the Judgment Day and be on his own.
Yep.
If Damian Priest wins, Seth Rollins cannot challenge for the championship as long as Priest is holding it.
Yeah.
Pretty interesting.
Yeah, when we both were sitting here watching it, and as he stopped, we were like, please don't say what you're about to say.
Don't pull a Cody Rhodes.
Don't pull a Cody Rhodes. I like that they specified it like Cody did going into Mania this year of like, if I lose, I'm not, as long as you're champ, I'm not challenging for that.
Yep.
I like that we have more stipulations than just the world title on the line. Like, it adds so much to that match already. And then also I love the fact that Gunther came out and was like, yeah, whoever wins, wins. Doesn't matter. I'm still walking out of SummerSlam as the champ, so have fun. And walked away. And I'm like, yeah, this is what I love about this era of Triple H and WWE is stuff is happening for Money in the Bank while stuff is happening for SummerSlam at the same time, while stuff is happening for stuff in the future, but nothing feels convoluted.
And everybody's story sort of intersects in one crazy way
without losing any steam or anything like that. So I really applaud him on that of, he's into long-term storytelling. We've seen that, and it's great most of the time. Sometimes it's a little too long, in my opinion. But the way he's able to intertwine all this stuff, I mean, with what we're going to talk about with the Bloodline, is just absolutely amazing to see how he's kind of looking at everything from a 20,000-foot view of the bigger picture of what he wants for the entire year.
Not to go too far off the rails, but speaking of Seth Rollins and the Bloodline and long-term storytelling, we finally have a date for the WrestleMania 40 Behind the Curtain documentary. Next Wednesday, July 3rd, on the YouTube channel. I think 7 Eastern or something like that, whatever it is. Anyway.
The Rock finally got to polish everything he wanted to.
I would say if you listen to Brian Gerwitz talk about it, he refutes that.
I don't believe half of what Brian Gerwitz says anyway, so it's fine.
I know you don't. I do. But anyway, it's beside the point. But anyway, that documentary comes out next week. It should be really good. But Seth Rollins and Damian Priest, we saw this match after Seth won the World Heavyweight Championship. It was his first challenger. So it'll be interesting to see the roles reversed. I know we're going to preview Money in the Bank next week, but early predictions, I think I'm sticking with what we've talked about before. I think somehow Damian Priest wins this match, and he's the one to face Gunther at SummerSlam. Yeah. Because I don't think it makes sense for Rollins to win the title back just to be the one to drop it to Gunther.
Yeah, I agree with that. I just still in my heart is like Seth could win this because I think
very easily.
I think SummerSlam the bigger match is Seth Gunther for the title.
Agreed.
Because again, if you don't do Seth Gunther, what does Seth do at SummerSlam?
That's a good question.
Because Drew's taken up, Punk's taken up. So where does he? Please do not put him with Uncle Howdy. I know I just talked a lot about how much I love the new Uncle Howdy stuff. Don't put him with Uncle Howdy, please, because we saw how that worked out last time, and it did not go well for anybody. But I don't know where he goes post Money in the Bank if he loses. Unless he wins and somebody cashes in on him. Like, let's say a Drew McIntyre.
What if you did something with, we just talked about him for a bit. What if you did something with Chad Gable and Rollins?
Yeah. See, I think you could also put Seth for the IC title.
Oh, Seth and Sammy would tear the house down.
Seth and Braun Breaker.
Again, yeah.
So like
But then, if you to poke a hole in that,
yep.
then you're putting Seth putting over people on 2 pay-per-views, his first 2 pay-per-views back.
Yep.
He's putting over younger guys.
Yeah.
Do you want that?
I think so because I think he's gotten big plans for the rest of the year. Because I'm not ruling out a Rock Seth match at some point. But even then, I don't think Seth wins.
No, that's true.
But then again, being in the ring with The Rock is like, okay, yeah, I made it. That's fine. So I don't know.
That's true. All right. Speaking of Drew McIntyre inserting himself into the Money in the Bank qualifier that's going to happen next week, we'll talk about that then. But last week on Raw, after being cost the championship at Clash at the Castle by CM Punk, who flew all the way over to Scotland just to screw.
And the way they shot Drew that was
just
beautiful.
Incredible. With Punk coming out as the special referee and screwing Drew was just amazing. First of all, I'm so glad they went through with that.
Yeah.
That they had Punk screwing Drew in Scotland.
Yeah.
Because you could easily have gone back and forth. It's like, okay, Drew lost in Cardiff. Does he really need to lose in Scotland? He held the title for 5 minutes at WrestleMania.
Yep.
Does he really not get the title now? And you're just making him hate CM Punk that much more, and I love it.
And whenever they wrestle at SummerSlam and Punk beats him, it's going to send him into a dark spiral that's going to get even better, I feel like.
Yeah, I'm really interested to see how they book that.
Yep.
And I don't expect that to be the only match, so I'll be interested to see how they get to a couple other matches.
I feel like they're going to space those out, though, throughout the year. Like, they're not going to be, like, back-to-back. They're not going to do, like, what they did with Seth and Cody, where it's 3 in a row.
Yeah.
I feel like they're going to kind of space that out. However, I will say this. I expected Punk to get hated more in Scotland than he did for costing them. There's a lot of people popping for him, and there was a whole section of people that were like embracing him and hugging him and cheering for him and everything else. So I was not expecting that. And then what we got on SmackDown kind of playing into it even more was just absolutely crazy.
Yeah, it really was. You had Drew quitting at the end of Raw, not at the end of Raw, in the middle of Raw.
Yeah.
Which I will bring up my beef with the Wyatt Sick stuff. That was my small little beef. Is a lot of people, I'll call Sam Roberts out on this, talking about how it was so awesome that we saw the gorilla position with Drew, and then an hour later it was flipped on its head. Well, my hole that I'm going to poke in that is it was not one continuous shot with Drew.
Was it not?
No. When he walked back through the curtain, they cut to commercial break. And then they showed it later. And then they showed it.
Yeah.
So it wasn't one continuous shot. So,
but they still established what Gorilla was supposed to look like.
Yes, they established it, but it wasn't this one continuous, we're going to show it, and then in 1 hour we're going to flip it and make it look like we made it look. Sorry, that was my
They could have done that.
They could have.
Which if they did, then props to you guys, because that's wild to do that.
Huge props.
That's wild.
Anyway. Beside the point, again, that's my one little bitty whatever.
I mean, you could poke a little hole and be like, why was the camera guy even going back there in the first place?
Good point.
Don't go too deep into it because it was awesome.
Fair point. Anyway, so Drew quits, and he walks out.
Yep.
And then he shows up in Chicago and attacks CM Punk with the garage door opening. Punk was a bloody mess.
I love that because they didn't reveal it right away. And so when the banging on the door started happening, I was like, the Wyatt Sick are showing up here on SmackDown. And then it raised, and there was Punk laid out, and the way Drew looked over top of him was just amazing.
Yep.
Absolutely amazing.
And he stole the bracelet.
Yep, with Larry and AJ on it.
Oh my gosh, it was great.
And then that kind of jumping ahead, I don't even know if it's in your notes or not.
Who cares? Just
getting
again, this is the week that literally is burning down the wrestling world.
Because we got CM Punk and Paul Heyman in the promo together to kick off SmackDown.
Exactly.
So it was like the whole segment, the whole intro to SmackDown was just absolutely amazing. Then it bled into that. And then he drags, I love him fireman carrying Punk through Gorilla to the stage. And then that thud that Punk took on the stage sounded horrible. And just all of it. And then Drew shoved Nick Aldis. And when he shoved Nick Aldis, I was like, I need a Nick Aldis versus Drew McIntyre match right now, please.
We need a Nick Aldis match with a bunch of people on
Roman,
the roster.
Cody, Seth. There's a whole bunch of people.
Apparently, what did he do? He tore his tricep or tore something or whatever. Let's get that dude
Heal it
healthy.
up, buddy. Let's get your wrestling.
Let's get that dude in the ring.
You don't need to be a man. You don't need to be a GM for the rest of your life. You need to get in the ring.
Let's freaking go. All right. Let's talk one more thing from Monday Night Raw, and then let's move on to NXT, and let's move on to SmackDown, and let's put a bow on this episode.
You know it's a busy week when we're talking about NXT.
Yeah, for real. The one more thing for Monday Night Raw, we have to give a weekly Liv Morgan, Dominic Mysterio update.
Gosh.
Last week, Liv shows up wearing Dom's vest. And can I just say, we have talked about this getting somewhat uncomfortable.
Somewhat. It's been uncomfortable. It's been very uncomfortable.
Well, as it started, it was like, okay, I'm a little.
We're pushing it.
We're pushing. We're pushing.
Yeah, we're past it now.
Last week with the vest, we passed it.
Yeah,
we were long gone past uncomfortable.
Yeah, I was expecting her when he started to, whatever. I was expecting a Shawn Michaels just the championship over stuff, and I was like, oh, please don't do this. And I love the way that Damian turned the corner and was like a dad looking at his son in that moment. I was like, what are you doing? Get out of here.
I just want my vest back.
And then he looked at Liv and said, leave the kid alone, please. Like, you're torturing the poor kid. Just leave him alone.
Oh, it was incredible. So that was last week.
Yeah.
And, she made him chase her around the arena, and then, like we said, the scene with Damian happened. And now this week, she gets into it with Zelina Vega.
Yeah.
And Dom apparently saves her from Rey Mysterio.
Yeah.
And he's now her hero. And she's wearing a shirt that says Daddy's Girl. Oh my gosh. And then last week she wished him Happy Father's Day. And and then it leads to the Judgment Day becoming tag team champions.
Which I'm fine with.
Which is fine.
Yep.
Which Liv manipulating R-Truth.
Which is funny.
Was saying, this would be such a big favor to Tom and Nick Mysterio.
Yeah.
Which
oh my gosh.
pops me every single time.
Every time.
It's so good. But man.
And we're getting Ray and Dom next week on TV.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Yeah, we're getting Ray and Dom next week on TV. We're getting Liv and Zelina for the title next week on TV.
Yep.
So I honestly don't know when this story is going to end.
So if we're getting Liv and Zelina next week, that probably means she's not defending the title at Money in the Bank. If I had to bet.
Probably not.
So that knocks out our Rhea comeback.
Unless something happens on that show.
Next week?
On Money in the Bank.
Oh,
unless we have something where she comes out to the ring and whatever the case is.
Yeah. We could in theory.
But I feel like this needs to be saved for SummerSlam. Like, I feel like Liv can defend the title at SummerSlam against Io Sky or somebody like that.
Yeah.
And then Rhea comes out there, and then we're kind of heading into, is that the Berlin show after that?
Yep, Bash in Berlin after SummerSlam.
So, which they'll say is close enough to Australia that it's her home country. They'll go from there.
I don't think they're anywhere close on the map. But whatever.
No, they're not. But
out of the U.S.
Yeah.
Let me paint this scenario for you with Liv. Is it bad? Because we saw this play out with CM Punk and with Drew McIntyre. Punk took out Drew.
Mm-hmm.
Priest cashes in. Is it bad if Rhea comes back, takes out Liv, and then whomever cashes in on Liv?
Yes, because Liv's whole premise is she wants to take everything from Rhea.
Yep.
And so I feel like in order for that to come full circle is Rhea has to take the title off of Liv. Rhea has to be the one to take the title off Liv. I feel like whoever wins Money in the Bank is going after Bayley.
I hope so.
And whoever wins Money in the Bank on the men's side is going after Gunther, whoever is the world champ.
I hope so. Because I agree with you.
Mm-hmm.
I can see that playing out.
I can see that playing out too.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Man. Woo. Let's take a break for a second. Let's remind you about our partners at SportsWire Radio. Make sure you're tuned in over there at sportswireradio.org, and that is sports with a Z. Tom and the crew have you covered with all of your Stanley Cup finals, which wrapped up tonight. Congratulations to the Florida Panthers for not blowing a 3-0 lead.
Oh, my gosh. They almost Atlanta Falcons themselves.
Well, since 1940, 42?
Something like
that. Crazy. Anyway, congratulations to the Florida Panthers. Anyway, they got you covered on your NHL stuff. They got you covered on your baseball stuff. All of your sports needs. SportsWire Radio. Go check out Tom and the crew over there. Make sure you listen live. Hit that button over there. SportsWireRadio.org. That is our exclusive partner. We love those guys. They play our stuff all the time. We can't thank them enough for their partnership. All right, let's talk some NXT. Andy, we called it last week. The Battle Royal, where Cody Rhodes said the number one contender is going to be determined in a 25-man Battle Royal. There's going to be some people from our locker room and some people from another locker room. And we'll just have to see what happens. And lo and behold, Joe Hendry shows up.
I cannot tell you the smile that was on my face when I heard that, because I don't necessarily love the fact that he was the first one eliminated. I get the reasoning behind it, which we'll talk about, I'm sure. Not a huge fan of that happening. However, he is the only one out of all of them, including NXT's own superstars, got his own entrance, which the people knew went along with everything, and got to cut a promo. And so I think that kind of shows NXT is very, very high on Joe Hendry. And I feel like that's not the last time we're going to see Joe Hendry in NXT.
And you don't just call out Shawn Michaels.
No.
For no reason.
Yeah. So I think we're heading that way. Also, did not expect Frankie Kazarian to show up as well. That one really got me.
Yep.
Because I was halfway expecting Joe Hendry. Frankie, I was not expecting. Seeing Frankie shaking hands with Shawn Michaels threw me back a lot, because I was like, I did not expect this man to be on WWE TV ever.
Yep.
And here he is standing there. So it was a wild night.
Yeah, it really was. Man, I was not watching it live.
Yeah.
I was on vacation. Wasn't watching it live. But immediately after it happened, several people sent it to me, the clip of Joe Hendry coming out.
Uh-huh.
Watching it and watching the camera shake.
Oh, the place went nuts.
It was insane, dude.
Went nuts.
It was insane.
And then, even at Clash at the Castle, there was people that had signs that said, say his name and he'll appear. Tonight at the Stanley Cup, I saw I think it's the goalie for the Panthers. It said, say his name, and his name will, and it put his name will appear, and it had a picture of him. So, even mainstream people are starting to pick up on who Joe Hendry is.
That's amazing.
I think it's only a matter of time before him and Jordan Grace are in WWE.
Good luck, TNA. You better pony up that money.
I don't think they could throw enough money at him to keep him away at this point.
I mean, we talk about how this partnership with NXT and TNA benefits TNA so much because it gives them so much exposure, but it also is a detriment to their company because WWE is using their biggest stars, and we're flashing money in front of them. Yeah. We're flashing all this fame in front of them. It's like, hey, when your contract comes up, just come over here. Give us a call.
Yeah. Which, I mean, I don't know why you wouldn't go after Joe Hendry, who is not, he's good in the ring, but he's such a great character.
Right. But just think about it. If they hadn't brought, I mean, I know he's over and I know blah, 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 but if they hadn't brought him over, I don't think he's somebody they would have really pursued really hard. Jordan Grace, yes. I think Joe Hendry would have gotten so over with the independent crowd and with the TNA crowd that it would have been hard to ignore him at some point. I think that's just kind of where he was, because I remember watching him in the WCPW days back 2000, whatever that was. The what days?
WCPW. So What Culture?
Okay,
had their own pro wrestling, and he was a very integral part in that. And so watching him on YouTube and stuff, I've been a massive Joe Hendry fan for years. So seeing him finally get his flowers is beautiful, and I think it would have happened anyway at some point. But I'm ready for him to debut on the main roster and just start singing songs about people, and it's going to be amazing.
Learn something new every day. All right, let's talk about SmackDown. And a lot happened on SmackDown, but we only got time for one thing.
We kind of talked about some other stuff.
We did. That's true. We only got time for one thing. It's the one thing we've been waiting on since WrestleMania.
Yeah.
when Tama Tonga showed up, it's like, oh, but it was supposed to be Jacob Fatu.
Mm-hmm.
When Tonga Loa showed up, oh, it was supposed to be Jacob Fatu.
Yep.
So now we're like, oh, the other brother,
Hikuleo is showing up.
Hikuleo is showing up. Nope, guess what? Jacob Fatu is finally here. And not only did he make a debut with the Bloodline, he took out 3 of the biggest names in WWE.
Yeah.
Over the last 20 years or whatever it is, Randy Orton's been around.
Yeah.
He takes out Randy Orton.
Yep.
Kevin Owens.
Yep.
And the undisputed WWE champion Cody Rhodes.
Broke 2 of his ribs. Possibly. In theory.
He took all 3 of those guys out.
Yep.
By himself.
Yep.
Bro.
I think we understand now why it took so long for them to debut him. Because in 4 minutes, and I love Solo. In 4 minutes, he did more than Solo has done since he's showed up.
I see. This is where I'm going to push back. I disagree because a lot of people were saying there's that narrative online of like, well, they don't want him to overshadow Solo. He can be really, really good.
Yeah.
And not overshadow Solo because I think the reason we're looking at this with, as excited as we are is because it's taken so long to get there.
Absolutely.
Number 2, I think we're at a point where Solo has established himself as the leader of this group, that it's not about Jacob overtaking him.
Right.
Because we're following the exact same pattern that we did with Roman in the original Bloodline. Roman had the Usos. And the Usos had no idea that Solo was coming in.
Yeah.
When Solo came in, it was Roman let him off the leash.
Yep.
Let him go. That's my enforcer. You guys just fall in line.
Yeah.
Now, Solo brings in Tama Tonga and Tonga Loa, and they're wrecking people and they're attacking people, whatever. Boom. Now he brings in his enforcer.
Yeah.
Tongans, get in line.
Yeah.
This is my guy.
Yeah.
Right here. So it's just like with Roman. So just like we were impressed with Solo, again, maybe not over Roman, and not taking anything away from Jacob. I just think that we're at a spot where Solo's established. We're okay. Anybody, Jey Uso, in some respects, could be a better wrestler than Roman Reigns. In some respects. So I think it's fine that Jacob is better than Solo. But the way Solo is leading this group,
right?
I think it's okay.
Yeah, what I mean when I say he's done more in 4 minutes than what Solo's kind of done since showing up on at Clash of the Castle 2 years ago, whenever it was, is I don't remember Solo being this dominant this quickly. And part of that is because Roman was the champ and he was on Roman's side. But seeing him take out Kevin Owens like he did, and then take out Randy Orton like he did, which I'm not totally convinced Randy's back isn't shot after taking that spear through the barricade, and the barricade didn't really even budge. And then the splash through the announce table. I don't remember feeling this way.
Yep.
And part of that is because I'm a big Jacob Fatu fan anyway and been seeing him and all that. But I don't remember feeling this way this quickly about Solo that I do about Jacob Fatu. I feel like there's a lot more fear behind the Bloodline now because of Jacob Fatu and not because of Solo. Whereas beforehand, when Solo showed up, it's not that I feared Solo. It's just Roman Reigns was in control and had all of this stuff now.
And I think that's playing into exactly the way they're telling the story.
Absolutely.
Is that the Bloodline is now just a completely different bloodline than it was before.
Yeah.
Forget the old guard.
Yeah.
This is the new guard. This is the way we're doing things now. Insert old bloodline to show them what's up.
Yeah.
At some point.
I'll say this. Be careful about who you put Jacob in the ring with, because I think we're going to learn really quickly that Jacob, in my opinion, in my personal opinion, which I'm sure we'll disagree on when we watch him wrestle, I think Jacob's the best wrestler in the family. Not necessarily all time. I'm not going to say all time, but I mean like current day right now, bell to bell, character-wise, nobody touches Roman Reigns.
Sure.
Bell to bell, Jacob Fatu is on a different level than a lot of people.
I'm not going to argue that because I've never seen the guy wrestle.
Yeah.
I've never watched a Jacob Fatu match.
Yeah, he is.
So I can't judge. So
he's scary.
Yeah.
He's very, very, very scary in a very realistic way. But I'll say this: I am so excited to see him on the main roster now, and see him be able to get in the ring with guys like Kevin Owens and Randy Orton and Cody Rhodes and some of these other guys.
Yep.
I'm very excited to see him take WWE by storm.
Yep.
I think he's going to be a future WWE champion.
And we will see when that happens. Speaking of his in-ring debut, it's speculated. We'll see. It was announced tonight on Raw Money in the Bank. Kevin Owens, Randy Orton, and Cody Rhodes in a 6-man tag at Money in the Bank against the Bloodline. So we don't know which 3 it is. Yep. It might be Jacob and the Tongans. It might be Solo and the Tongans. We'll see. We don't know. We talked about this before we came on. It just depends on what they have in store for SummerSlam.
Yep.
A lot of people are saying Solo versus Cody. A lot of people are saying Solo versus Roman at SummerSlam. I am in the other camp, and I think we get Cody Roman part 2 at
part
SummerSlam.
3.
Well, part 3, yes. Part 2 this year, part 3 total.
Yeah.
Because I think...
Is that where Rock comes back, you think?
No. Because
he's hurt right now. From a movie. It's not hurt, but he's...
Yeah, he said something on Instagram the other day. He's like, oh, the elbow's feeling better or whatever.
Yeah.
I don't know. Whatever. Anywho, I don't think we see Rock until Survivor Series.
Yeah.
But anyway, no, I think Roman comes back at the end of Money in the Bank. Maybe not at the end.
Like John Cena?
Yes. Roman comes back. And Roman, we see this month of struggle with him and the Bloodline.
Mm-hmm.
Where he's trying to face Cody and he needs their back and they're going ballistic.
Yeah.
And Cody ends up winning, and then that's how it sort of starts falling apart because if you notice, the other night, before Solo went to the ring to face Cody, he and Heyman had a conversation, and Heyman said, Roman told you to keep Cody in check, not checkmate. Keep him in check till Roman comes back. And Solo said, Roman ain't coming back.
Yeah.
So I think there needs to be a month or so of tension with Roman and Solo before we totally get them split up.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. I think I could also see Roman coming back and immediately getting in Solo's face of like, I never told you any of this.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you've done this all on your own.
Yep.
I like the initiative.
Yep.
Remember your place.
Sure.
Like that, like him not necessarily struggling with it, him just reassuming his role.
Yep.
And then SummerSlam, we could do Roman Cody. Solo, I would love it. Solo does the spike to Roman, very similar to how he did it to Cody at WrestleMania. Cody gets the win, and then we start to head to Roman Solo. Oh, what's the next big show? Not Berlin. Probably not Berlin. Probably a Saudi show?
Probably a Saudi show. Yep. Unless that's in November. I think they've already announced it. It might be the beginning of November.
So then some Survivor Series?
Speculation about Bad Blood in October that's been floated around this week.
Bad Blood, you could do Punk Drew, and you could do Roman Solo.
Yep. Here's another scenario for you. Let's say that it is Cody and Solo.
Mm-hmm.
Do you see any scenario where Solo wins?
I don't like this question. No.
Because I do.
I mean, I think there's always a scenario where it could happen. I think it's more Solo is about to win. Roman comes out.
Okay.
And is like, no, that's my title. You're not the one that gets to go after it. You've been lying this entire time. That type of thing. Maybe
it could be some sort of thing where like Solo's about to win. Roman comes out, assumes that Solo is going to like step aside for him.
Yeah.
and Roman can be the one to beat Cody. Solo spikes Roman.
Yeah.
And then Cody takes advantage, pins Solo.
Yep.
And then, whatever.
And I think that, listen, I think there's a scenario where long-term booking, main event of WrestleMania could be Cody, Roman, Rock.
Triple threat.
Threat.
For sure.
Which
apparently that's been talked about.
Which if that's the case, I don't necessarily want to do Cody Roman again until we get to that.
That's true.
So I don't know. But I think if we're doing anything Rock, Cody related down the line, Solo does not need to win the title.
Agreed.
If anybody needs to take the title off of Cody in that scenario, it's The Rock.
It's Rock. You're right. Do you think you would have ever said that?
I don't think it's a good idea. But
it makes sense.
Anyone is going to do it, it's going to be Rock.
It makes sense.
But no, I never thought I would say that. And kind of be like, I kind of accept it. I don't like it, but I accept it.
Oh, my goodness. Oh, man. What a loaded week. There's still a couple more things we need to hit real quick. Appreciate you guys being tuned in. Wherever you find your podcast, make sure you follow the show. Make sure that you are subscribed on the YouTube channel, like the video, all the things we would appreciate it. Have some breaking news to announce, but we'll wait to the end of the show to do that. So reward those of you who are sticking around towards the end of the show. Keep that average view duration up on these videos. We would appreciate it. Some sad news in the WWE landscape as we get ready to sign off here. Kayla Braxton, my favorite announcer and yours, is leaving the company. This Friday on SmackDown is her last show. I knew something was up when she changed her name on Twitter, but, whatever. But Kayla's leaving. She's had an incredible tenure in WWE. She's done some incredible things. She was the original host of The Bump.
Yep.
She's hosted all the kickoff shows since the pandemic.
Yep.
And she's just done some really good stuff. She was even the ring announcer at NXT TakeOver Brooklyn, Gargano and Adam Cole.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah, she ringing us in NXT for a while.
That's cool.
She did.
She was also my favorite person to watch interview the Bloodline and Paul Heyman.
Oh, her interactions with Paul Heyman will go down in history.
So funny. It was great.
So good. But Kayla's leaving. It's very sad.
Yeah. Yeah, wherever she goes, massive success. I think she's said she wants to stay in the journalism broadcasting realm.
That's what her degree is in from Belmont University in Nashville.
Oh, really?
Yep.
I was expecting you to say like Dan Patrick.
Nope.
Whatever. What is it called?
Dan Patrick School of Sportscasting
there you go.
Full Sail University.
Full Sail. There we go. That's what I was looking for.
No, Belmont in Nashville.
That's cool. So, maybe I think she'll do, I think we'll see her on ESPN or Fox or something like that.
I would assume so too.
Maybe with like college football or
she's going out of the wrestling.
NFL or something like that.
She's already said she's going out of wrestling.
Yeah.
She's not going to AEW. Yeah. She said if I was going to stay in wrestling, I would stay with the biggest and best wrestling company out there.
New Japan Pro Wrestling.
She would have stayed, being the key word in that statement. That's what she said.
That part.
Yeah, that's what she said. Yeah, of course she did. Also announced today on Monday, Indianapolis, Indiana gets the trifecta of WWE big events.
Yep.
The Royal Rumble confirmed February 1st, 2025, and then sometime in the next couple of years, WrestleMania and SummerSlam will also go to Indianapolis. And what's interesting about this announcement, Andy, is the way Triple H announced it.
Mm-hmm.
He said this is the first announcement of its kind.
Yep.
So you got to think in the next couple of years,
There'll be a couple of them like this.
Going to be a couple of them like this.
Yeah. I think LA is like a lock that they're going to get something like that. Nashville, Tennessee should absolutely be one of them, just to be honest, Triple H.
Listen, we've already had a SummerSlam.
We have, and it was very successful. But we are going to have a new stadium, so it's going to be beautiful, more people. And Nashville's like the number one travel destination in the country, I feel like. So, just come on. Make it a fun weekend.
If you believe the Tennessee Twitter feeds, WrestleMania is already confirmed for 2027.
Yeah.
If you believe it. I mean, some people within the Titans organization and people responsible for building the stadium, they've sort of said that they've been in talks with WWE, but WWE has not said it. So,
and Minnesota said the same thing, and it got pushed back like 20 times. And then they finally got it.
And then they finally got SummerSlam, not WrestleMania.
But a 2-night SummerSlam, so that kind of, sweetened the deal. Listen, I think Indy's a great spot for it, and I'm not just saying that because it's like a 4-hour drive for us. Right. But I think Lucas Oil is a beautiful stadium, and so I think that is a great spot for it. Is this the first time? I know it's the first time in a long time that the Rumble is in February and not January.
Probably the first time ever. There might have been like one.
It's normally like the last week of January-ish.
It depends on what the Super Bowl schedule is coming up next year, and the playoff schedule and all that kind of stuff. Because they normally bump right up against that.
Because what if the Colts have a home game on that Saturday?
Yeah, that's true. So I'm sure.
No, that's the week between the.
I would assume it's the week between the championship and the Super Bowl. Yeah, I would assume. Yeah. I had to bet. Who knows? But you say Lucas Oil is a beautiful stadium. I've never been there, but maybe I'll get to see it.
Maybe. We'll see.
Who knows? 4 hours and 15 minutes to be exact. Anyway.
I could probably make it in 3.5.
Who's driving, man? Speedy Gonzalez? Good grief.
Fine.
Anywho, all right. Have you been in Nashville and Louisville and Indianapolis traffic? We ain't cutting out that much
I'll leave
time.
at like 3 o'clock in the morning.
We ain't cutting out that much time. Anyway, we're getting off the rails here. Here we go. All right. This coming weekend, because it's been a loaded week in the world of wrestling.
Yeah, what else is there?
Don't really have a whole lot of time to preview. AEW Forbidden Door is coming up this weekend. AEW and New Japan's effort, headlined by Swerve Strickland and Will Ospreay for the AEW Championship. Interesting.
Shocked it's happening this early, to be honest with you.
Yeah, for sure.
Which makes me think there's going to be a schmoz in this one.
And a rematch at some point? Okay.
Wembley. Well, I think Will wins this at Wembley.
I just don't understand how they get the international title off of Will. I mean, I guess
Don Callis will turn on him.
Some sort of something or other. What else is on the card that you're excited about? I quite frankly, I have a foggy idea of a couple of matches, but that's about it.
Probably Jon Moxley versus Tetsuya Naito for the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship. Okay. That's going to be a lot of fun.
Yep.
That's going to be a really, really good one. Bryan Danielson versus Shingo Takagi is going to be another one that's potentially match of the night, but then Will Ospreay is also wrestling, so who knows what's going to be match of the night that night.
That's true.
And then the best story in AEW right now, second best story in AEW right now, because the Jack Perry scapegoat stuff is really interesting still and a lot of fun.
Does he win that ladder match for the TNT title?
Probably.
I would assume it's either him or...
It's either him or Takeshita.
I would say Mark Briscoe. Has a good chance.
Yeah, I think Briscoe has a good chance too, but I think Jack Perry's the odds-on favorite. Sure. But the other best story is Toni Storm and Mina. I think that's amazing because Mina and Mariah May were tag partners in Japan, and so she's coming over here to go after Toni Storm. So there's like a whose side is she on type of thing. It's very, very interesting. So I'm very excited to see that one as well.
Interesting. All right, that could be good. All right, I'm sure we'll talk a little bit about those results coming up next week. Also, next week we will be previewing Money in the Bank.
So many pay-per-views back-to-back.
So many pay-per-views back-to-back. But, ladies and gentlemen, we have to find time for special guests. And breaking news, we've told you that special guests are coming on this show, and it is confirmed. Ladies and gentlemen, next Tuesday, WWE announcer Byron Saxton will be on Squared Circle Radio next week.
Wow.
Yes. He is the play-by-play commentator of NXT Level Up. You've seen him on Friday Night SmackDown. He's been color commentary with Corey Graves and Tom Hannafin. He hosts the press conferences. Byron Saxton will be on the podcast next week. How we're going to fit all of it together?
We'll make time.
We'll figure it out, ladies and gentlemen. But you do not want to miss next Tuesday's episode. Byron Saxton will be with us. It's going to be a blast. In the meantime, and in the between time, I wish I could say that faster, but it's 11:15 at night. I can't talk.
It's a little late.
At Squared Circle Radio is where you can follow us on social media. That is Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Andy is at Andy_SQR.
Yeah.
And I am at Chris Belcher 24. Give us a follow. Give us some feedback on social media. We would appreciate it very much. Like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel, follow us on whatever podcast platform you're on. We would appreciate it very much. Andy, a loaded show, man. We made it. It didn't take 2 hours. But we made it.
It's come close before, but we've made it, and possibly the greatest week in WWE history. The most unexpected week in WWE history.
It is the best week of the Renaissance era.
Yes,
I can safely say that. Maybe that's the title of the episode.
That's a good title.
I don't know. Y'all check it out. Tell us what the title is. Who knows? Whatever it ends up being, you'll know what it is. All right. We better sign off before we really get off the rails. For Mr. Andy York, my name is Chris Belcher. This has been Squared Circle Radio. Catch you guys down the road.